Thank you everyone for attending the EducationUSA webinar on Common Application. This webinar is hosted by EducationUSA Tokyo. EducationUSA is a U.S. Department of State network promoting study in the United States by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about U.S. colleges and universities. In Japan, we have EducationUSA centers in Sapporo, Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, Fukuoka, and Okinawa, which are run by U.S. Embassy, consulates, and Fulbright Japan. If you have any questions, please contact EducationUSA nearby. During the EducationUSA week, we have study abroad webinars every day. Yesterday, we had a session for high school students and parents. Tomorrow, we will have a session on college application essay writing. On Thursday, we have recommendation letter session for high school teachers. For more information, please check our website. On September 23rd, EducationUSA Japan will hold a fall college fair. Please come and meet with U.S. college and university representatives in person or virtually. We will also have sessions on financial aid and English tests. We hope to see you there. Now, I'd like to welcome our guest speakers from United States. Ms. Meredith Lombardi from Common Application and Ms. Carla Raygosa from Florida Southern College. After the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session, so please type your questions in English in the Q&A box anytime during the webinar. Meredith and Carla, thank you so much for staying late in your time zone. We really appreciate it. And now I'm passing over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Meredith Lombardi, and I'm the Associate Director of Outreach and Education at Common App.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Raygosa, and I'm Assistant Director here for undergraduate admissions. I get to work with applicants from your area and work through the admissions process with them.
So Carla and I are here to answer your questions about applying to schools using Common App or just general application questions. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and hope that that's working. Yes, okay, great. So for our time with you, we'll go over what the Common App is. You'll get to hear a little bit about Florida Southern. We'll talk about each part of the application, connect you with tools and resources that you can use so you feel ready to go and you know where to go when you have questions. And then again, we are here to answer the questions that you have. So please use this opportunity to put your questions in the Q&A so that we can answer them. So you may be familiar with Common App, or you may have had friends who have applied to study in the US or elsewhere use Common App, but you may also not have heard of it. This may be your first time learning about the system. So what you should know is that the Common App was created to simplify the application process for students. It is an online platform that you can use to apply to more than one college. It is a membership organization that exists now of more than 1,000 colleges and universities, most of which are in the United States, but we also have over 50 that are in countries all over the world as well. But the idea is you have one platform that you can have one username and password, and then you can submit to multiple schools within that one platform. This is a visual representation of the Common App membership. So there's a map that exists, and you can see little dots all over, again, the United States, but then also international. So we currently have 1,035 institutions that accept Common App for admissions in all 50 US states, plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, as well as 59 international members in 18 countries outside of the US. As a membership organization, it means that the schools that are on Common App grows each year. So last year there were fewer than 1,000 schools, and 5 years ago there may have only been 600 schools, but now you, going through this process, will have access to over 1,000. Just in this year, as of August 1st, there were 68 new colleges accepting the Common App. Those schools are in 24 different states around the United States, and just about half of them are public institutions, which you can see the list here on the right-hand side in states all over the US. We do list a full list of schools that are new to Common App on our blog, commonapp.org/blog. For you and what community you might be part of using this platform, each year we have over 1 million students who submit at least one application through the Common App. Those students are coming from everywhere. 91% are in the US, but then there are 9% of students that are coming from over 200 countries all over the world, including Japan. Right now, if you looked at number of students in countries, Japan ranks around number 31 overall. Your journey, or where you would want to begin with Common App, is to go to commonapp.org, and you will find a lot of information out there on the website. If you just want to find information about colleges, if you go to Find a College, that is our Explore Colleges page. You can use the search to look up schools. You can use filters if you're trying to do certain searches. You can see things in a map view. So especially because the United States is so large, if you wanted to be able to zoom in a particular area to get to know the schools in that area, you can do that. You can use filters to find additional information in different schools. There is a filter on the website for test optional schools, but I also wanted to call out fairtest.org because you may want to learn more about schools that don't require an SAT or ACT test score, and Fair Test tracks that for all institutions, not just Common App schools, and they have information specific about international students. Another part that's really great about the Common App website is you can learn about each college as well. So this is the example profile page for Florida Southern, where you get to read a little bit more about the school. There are green tags that let you know about the school, which if you click on one of the green tags, it will show you other colleges that are similar to that. You can also do virtual tours of schools, because we know you can't get to 1,000 campuses all over the world, but with virtual tours, you can. It's like visiting the campus. Look at images. You can also explore the different programs that schools are highlighting. So if you go to their profile, you'll also then see programs and different activities and experiences that the school is highlighting. So a lot you can learn before you even start the application process. I'll pass it over to Carla to talk a little bit more, because I gave you just that little snippet of information about Florida Southern.
I know, I like the promo to transitioning over. So thank you so much again, Carla at Florida Southern College. With Florida Southern, we are located in sunny Florida, and we're in the central part of Florida, which is called Lakeland. Just so that you're familiar, maybe there's somebody out there that's been to Lakeland, Florida. One of the unique things about us is that we were designed by a famous architect named Frank Lloyd Wright. So sometimes people come on tour just to see the architecture. And then there's also like the campus tours. Sometimes people mix up those tours. So that's always fun. But with Florida Southern, we are a smaller school. So those are things that some students consider is size. We are on Common App. So that's one way to apply to this school. Something that I like to highlight is that it's free to apply to us, whichever application you choose. And we are considered a smaller school, like I mentioned earlier, with size. You want to, if that's something that's important to you, whether you're in the classroom with like 15 to 18 students or, 200 or more students, there's a school for everybody. And sometimes those can be some of those deciding factors. Okay, these schools have the same program, and I like this, but maybe I don't want to be in a class this big, or maybe I don't want to be in a class this small. Weather is important too, and food I think is also important, but people decide what's going to be important to them. And I'm one of the people that helps with giving you all the information you need. Going on to the next slide, I have a couple of like fast facts is what I like to call it. These are like very common things that students ask me. How many programs do you have? We have more than 70 different programs to choose from. So even though we're a smaller school with about 16 students in the classroom, there's still a lot to pick from. And oftentimes for my students, you'll hear that they're doing like 2 tracks, they're majoring in this and also studying this, and then also doing a minor. And oftentimes my international students are like, what is a minor? So I go through and assist you with that. We also have sports here on the campus. So students who are interested in being athletes, I can talk to them individually more about how that works, especially since I'm not the person that decides on athletics. So connecting them with the coach. We also are known for our signature programs, studying abroad, internships, and the 4-year graduation. It's pretty funny for my international students because they're like, this is my study abroad experience, but knowing that there's an additional opportunity to apply what they're learning in another setting is still really interesting. And you can actually do study abroad within the US, which I think is fun. So like my musical theater students, they have the option of going to London and checking out some things over there in their experience, but they can also go to New York or do both. And I think that's really cool. Same thing for my marine bio students. I think that it's important for students to check out the coral reefs. And so we have an amazing one down here in Florida at the Keys. So that could be a study abroad experience, but then also heading back over closer to you, heading back over to Australia, for example, is another study abroad experience. So we have a lot of really cool experiences for students that way. Most of our programs require the internship, which is really important to us to make you competitive. It's not just about you getting that degree, but also you going on to like the next thing that you want to do, whether that's career or graduate school studies, whatever it is you need, we want you to be competitive, and that internship assist you with that. Depending on the major, again, it will be required, and we have an excellent career services program that's actually specialized by major. And then we're actually 45% higher on the national average at graduating students within 4 years, and we think that's important just when you're looking at time and investment. So there's a lot of really cool things with Florida Southern. Again, we're a smaller school, so that's also something to consider, located in sunny Florida. Just so you know a little bit about that before I tell you how to apply, because I'm sure you're now super excited, being like, okay, Carla, how to do it. And so application is free to submit. And remember, I mentioned that you could do it on Common App. There's also some other ones. So we have these all posted on our site as well, where you can go onto Common App, Coalition app, or the Florida Southern internal app. During the application process, there's going to be a question on there that I think is really important. You may see this more often throughout your application process now, is where a student gets to decide if there is an opportunity to decide whether you want to be test optional or test considered. So for my school, you're able to decide what how you want to be viewed in the application process. Do you want to use your test scores? And when I'm talking about test scores, I'm talking about the SAT or the ACT. Or if you don't want us to consider those for admission, there is another section where a student can actually self-report and state what they received. And so if you're test optional, you can still say what you wanted, and it wouldn't be part of the application process. Normally, if I see that it's going to help you, I'm going to reach out to you and say, hey, I think you should be test considered, just because I think that some of my students are harder on themselves and think that because they didn't get the perfect score that they shouldn't show anybody. And sometimes you can still be competitive in that way. But you don't have to. And most of my international students, to be honest with you, like have not been able to take it because of just how strict things are. So students are able to highlight themselves in different ways, and, you know, show additional documents. And this is where the next bullet point is talking about your supporting documents. So for the most part, whether you're test optional or test considered, you still have to submit that high school transcript. And we require 1 letter recommendation. I normally recommend my students who are test optional to maybe submit 1 more, not required, but again, just highlighting yourself. Your personal statement is your college essay. So you get to decide from different topics on what you want to write about and what you want to share with your admissions counselor. I like to tell my students that thinking about their grammar is going to be important. That's one of the things that an admissions counselor may be looking at. It's like, would this person be able to write at the college level? So they don't have to think about like, oh my goodness, is this going to be like another boring, you know, story about something else? It's like, it's fine because it's your story, and I find them all entertaining, to be honest with you. But I want to make sure that they're written at the college level, and that you're really paying attention to like who you're writing to. And proof of English proficiency is going to be something that we actually look at for all students, but it can be different. For my institution, if you're studying at a school where the medium of instruction is English, for example, that would be your proof of English proficiency. I really like the Common App school profile section because a counselor can put the primary language taught on there, and that really helps with the process of waiving that. But we accept TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo English test, or an SAT or ACT. So we have a couple of different ways at my institution to submit your supporting documents. Admissions decisions take 3 to 4 weeks once the application is completed with all supporting documents. I will get a student who will submit an application, not submit any additional documents, and say, hey, when is this going to be ready? And so my reply will be, hey, when are you going to submit your supporting documents? It's always fun. They're like, I submitted the application. When am I going to hear back? And I was like, no, there's still one more step, sending over your supporting documents. And it takes about 3 to 4 weeks. So you wait for your decision. You will get a notice for Florida Southern through email that says, hey, you have a decision, check your status page. And so you have a personalized status page where you can view your decision. Hopefully, right? What we're waiting for is to get accepted. There's actually confetti in my digital application, so it's quite fun. And all students who are accepted automatically get considered for merit scholarship. So that's also another nice letter that you get in the electronic format through the status page. And then something that's also a little bit different here at Florida Southern is that I would be the one to review estimated expenses with you, talk through your scholarship. Sometimes you may be working with a financial aid person or like an international student advisor, you may head over. But in my role with admissions, I work with you from inquiry stage, which is, when you're just curious about learning more, all the way through enrolling here. What I was doing last week was heading over to the airport and picking up students and bringing them to campus who were flying by themselves. And we just finished our orientation. The students are probably not sleeping right now, excited for classes that begin officially tomorrow. So I'm sure they're nervous or excited. But yeah, I review that with you. And then if you decide to enroll at Florida Southern after being accepted and reviewing finances and going over the visa process, I talk with you on that. Then I would be the one to create what's called the I-20 and help you with getting your visa if that's something that you're looking to get, the F1 student visa. So it's I like to say like very personalized here at Florida Southern, since you just work with one person and you go through the entire process with them until you get here, at which point I do transition you over to our international student advisor here on campus. And it is not Moxie over there. That's our mascot. We are the water moccasins here. So you'll hear a lot of mox puns is what I say. And the dog there is Sophie, and that's one of our counseling dogs. So we have an official counseling center that you can go to for, whatever you need, whether you're just going through like a stressful week and you want to talk to somebody, or you just want to pet the dog, you can go do that. And so they have a lot of different relaxation methods in the counseling center to help and support you. Something else that I want to talk to you about is different ways that you can experience Florida Southern College, FSC. We do have tours running that you can schedule for from our website ahead of time, but we also have virtual options where we have different videos created of our faculty speaking about their programs, different experiences here at Florida Southern, whether that's, like I mentioned earlier, the counseling center, the career services office, so many different departments. We have videos, and then we also have Zoom sessions as well, always running. If you want to sign up for that for free, we go through all those sessions. I know that students are able to schedule a meeting with me directly on my calendar. I know with time zone, it's always fun, but I do have that available, and I have different office hours available for that. We do an incentive to actually fly on us. That's what we call it. So students who are accepted and meet a certain admissions criteria, whether that's academic, then they're able to get up to $250 reimbursed on their flight as long as they visit campus. We do have some accepted students day, which is typically when we promote for that. So I know that doesn't cover the full flight, but it does help out, especially if you're maybe heading over to Disney. Like, why not go and check out campus as well and get a little reimbursement or some extra money to use at Disney. We are only about 40 minutes away driving to get to Disney or Universal. There's many theme parks here within an hour's drive. And so that incentive I really like for students just to take advantage of, especially if they're already planning to be in Florida, just to take one extra route and head over to visit campus. And then our prestige scholarships, those selected typically get invited to come and interview. And so those are typically done around our accepted students day. Our prestige scholarships are those full ride scholarship opportunities. They are really competitive, but it's really cool. I normally have 1 or 2 international students get selected for that. There's about 8 to 10 of those prestige scholarships, which are full tuition or full tuition room and board scholarships. And I normally have about 2 international students on average. I've been here since 2018. So about 2, I think this year we had 3, if I look back. But that's always really exciting as more students are becoming aware of that awesome opportunity and being selected to interview for that. So those are a couple different ways to experience Florida Southern. We have a lot of this information on our website, and of course you will get my contact information. So if there's anything else you want to know about Florida Southern, I'll be more than happy to reach out to you afterwards as well.
Awesome. These are always so fun for me to partner with member institutions because I learned something new. So I did not know about the Frank Lloyd Wright connection, which is just really, really interesting. So hopefully this, that intro even just gets you excited about the opportunities that exist on college campuses. So now we're going to walk you through how you would go about applying through Common App. So again, commonapp.org is your starting point for creating a Common App account. When you go to the website, you can click on Apply Now or Create an Account. We also have a mobile app, so you can download for free through the Apple Store or Google Play Common App. Either one, commonapp.org or so the website version or Common App as an app will get you the app to be able to apply to colleges. And they speak to each other seamlessly. A feature of Common App, because some of you may be applying this year to study in the US or thinking about it, or some of you, it may be a year or two later, there is a feature of the Common App that's called account rollover, which means you can create your account at any time, and then your information, your account can stay active year over year. So when you create your account, we'll keep your username and password, which is your email address, and then whatever password you set up. There is a common portion of the application called the Common App tab. Anything you put in there rolls over from year to year. And we're going to go into detail with what all these sections are. What does not roll over are things that are college specific. So while we'll keep whatever colleges you add to your list, we won't roll over any answers to college specific questions, and we won't roll over anything related to recommendation invitations. But so those of you who are creating an account now and are planning to enroll in colleges in fall of 2023, that application is up and ready to go. And for those of you who may be looking to start school in 2024 or later, you can still create your account and we'll just keep your information and you can roll that over each year. This is inside the application and specifically the first year application. Common App supports undergraduate admissions for both students who are going right from high school to college, who haven't taken college courses or earned any kind of college degree, we also have a transfer application. And that is if you have some college credits and you're looking to complete your bachelor's degree, you can use Common App's transfer application. What I will be showing you and we'll be talking about is the first year application, but we can certainly answer transfer application questions. Also to note, because I get this question a lot, is Common App these are undergraduate applications. So we do not have a graduate application, although there is a graduate common application called GradCast that is through one of our partners, Liaison, but that is separate from Common App. So right now I'm in the first year application, and there are 5 tabs at the top. I like to start on the college search tab because that is where you would go to add a school that you want to apply to. So here you'll see that full list of over 1,000 schools, and you can either type in the name of a school to add it to your list, or you can use filters to find a specific school and then hit the plus sign to add it to your list. There is a requirements grid here. Some of the things that Carla mentioned earlier, like teacher letters of recommendation, whether or not a school charges a fee, their testing requirements, all of that information exists in the requirements grid where it says application requirements. So you can look at that and see it for just the schools on your list. You can look up a particular school, or you can see it as a large spreadsheet for all 1,000 plus schools in Common App. But it's a great resource to make sure that you know what you need for each school. This is you, Carla, just in terms of like, what advice do you give for students as they're creating these accounts and thinking about applying to different schools?
Yes, and there's a couple notes in there. I personally, I did use Common App when I was doing my search in college, and I did apply to several schools. So I thought about things that like I wish I would have done, you know, and things that I did do, especially now as an admissions counselor, making sure that even just having a separate account, email account just for colleges is helpful for you, because colleges, we do send quite a bit of communications, and if you're applying to a lot of them, it may be nice just to have something separate where like you can focus at that moment, instead of getting like, you know, shopping emails and other confirmations along with like your college search. That's going to be really important, and even having some sort of like spreadsheet or calendar to see like upcoming dates, because depending on the schools that you're applying to, I won't get too specific unless I have to, but like we may have different deadlines or no deadlines, and so making sure which ones have a deadline and for certain things, or which ones require an additional application for something you may be interested, will be important. And I like the one right underneath about appropriate language, just because there's some email accounts that I just can't repeat right now, you know, and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't necessarily bother me, you know, I just kind of like, hey, did you know that like everybody sees this? Or, you know, and I normally reach out, but there may be another school that may not even like, you know, entertain somebody with inappropriate type of communication or email. So I think it's important to just maybe keep it simple, put your name at colleges, or you know, I like, there's one that was like Carla's college search at gmail.com, and I was like, that's nice. So anyway, and if there's an opportunity to connect and learn, just like how you're doing now, definitely do that, and do that outreach with your email. I know for us, I connect all my students, if possible, with at least a student with the same major as them, or from the same like area that they're from, you know, whatever can help them make their decision. And then also like with the program director, letting them know about those things just so that they can learn more.
Okay. So in terms of fees, the Common App is free to use. The way it works is that each college determines what they are going to charge for an application fee, if they're going to charge one. So again, as the example, Florida Southern, they do not charge an application fee. Another school you're applying to might charge $50 US or $75 US. It's really up to each college. When you go and you create your list, you can look in that requirements grid to see what the fees are for you for those schools. Within Common App, you can add up to 20 schools that you can apply to. The average that students apply to through Common App is right around 6, just to give you that kind of context. There is the process for requesting a fee waiver if the application fee is a barrier for you, or you meet certain income eligibility. And you'll see that information in the application. Just note, and it's super important, that to check with the institution that they grant them for international students, because the fee waiver there, a lot of the language is for US students. So just check in advance. Usually it's not an issue, but if for some reason they don't grant a fee waiver, they may come back after you apply and ask you to pay that application fee. You can find which schools do not charge any application fee by using the Common App website on the Explore page, or within the application using the search filters. Jumping over to the Common App tab, this is probably where you'll spend a good amount of time. This is the information that you're filling out one time that you send individually to each school you're applying to. So general demographic information, information about your family, the schools, the high schools, or any colleges that you have attended, the testing, any standardized testing that you want to self-report, an activity section, writing section, that's where that personal statement or personal essay is. And then there's a section called courses and grades, where you may be applying to a school that requires you to report all of the classes that you have taken in high school. You will see green check marks anytime you've completed a section or a subsection. You can look at a preview of any section to see how the PDF looks. You can access our support team that are available any time of day, every day of the year, right from the application on the right-hand side. Anything you want to add here, Carla?
Yeah, I think I just want to keep reminders on, for example, when you are applying to schools, multiple schools, keeping track. And I recommend a spreadsheet, but maybe, that's just me, in putting down the certain deadlines of when things are, keeping track of application fees. I do like replying to those emails, but I do know, every now and again, a student will email me, say like, hey, can I get an application fee waiver? And I'm like, hey, actually, it's free, for us. So that's always nice. But it may be that they're just mass messaging a bunch of schools. I get asked about testing requirements, and I always let them know, hey, you can decide if you want to use your exams or not. So each school can be different. It is important to check out their admissions page. We do have all of our information listed on there. I like this note about self-reported or official, and I don't know if everybody fully understands that one, so I want to explain it. Self-reported is when somebody can just put down, hey, I took the SAT and I got this score. They just are stating it, and Common App has a section where you can state what that is. Official would be you selecting before taking the SAT, there's a section where you can select which schools you want your exams to go to. And so that's when the College Board under SAT sends everything directly over, and that's considered official. There's also a third option I didn't think about, is the unofficial, where you send a copy of your score, but it's something that's already you're sending over, and it could have been tampered with. We don't know yet, it's not, but yeah, I'll take self-reported or unofficial scores, for example, just for the admissions review. But then once a student chooses to enroll, they'll be sending over that official documentation from everything that they sent over. So their transcripts, I'll use a copy for the admissions part, but later on you'll be sending your final official transcript directly from your school. You're not in the middle of it, and so they're sending it over, and that's going to be considered as official. So anyway, that is always fun. I feel like that's something that's slightly different than maybe from our own countries. And so hopefully that helped a little bit. There's still going to be some schools that will tell you like, oh, we'll just take self-reported, or like another school will say like, oh no, we use officials only during the admissions process. And of course, like my school, which may be a little bit more flexible, I think, where we'll take unofficials or self-reported, and then we'll just ask for the officials at the state of enrollment. And that's after you've already decided to come here. And I think the last 2 points are really important. There's a section in the application process that asks you for your name. And we do recommend that it's as it appears in your passport and all your other documents. So I do have some students sometimes put their other name or however they may go by, but then it's really hard to match that with a transcript that may get sent over by the school, or the way a score from the SAT gets sent over. There is a section where you can put your preferred name. So maybe you don't go by your name, but that is your legal name on your passport. You'll put that down, and then you can still put your preferred name on how you want me to communicate with you. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I do get a couple students asking me, what's a preferred name? What do you mean by that? And when I tell them, it's like, oh, like what what do you want to be called versus, what you're named, and they're like, oh, I like this, and other students are like, no, I'll still go with my name. And that's me, for example. I never got a cool nickname or anything like that, so I've always been Carla.
Perfect. And I know that we are probably about to bump into the Q&A time, hopefully. So we'll move a little quickly through the rest of this, but hopefully we'll be answering some of your questions that would have come up, and we'll also be able to stay on for additional questions at the end. Just some points in the application. You will see some questions that do not apply to you. So if you get caught up on those, know that they're not required. Again, you may go to a school that does not rank students where it says class rank reporting, or you may go to a school that does not do a grade point average. If that is the case, you can either leave those blank, you can answer none. You do not have to do a calculation. That it is meant for students who go to a school that has a number that exists on their academic record. If you don't have that, do not try and come up with a number here. That is not what those fields are meant for. I'm going to pass over this just in interest of time, but again, I think it's, if you have questions about these, Common App, we have FAQs to help you through this. And again, don't worry if you don't rank or if you don't have a scale. Colleges know how to read your academic records. Just wanted to call out that you are doing something with EducationUSA today, and you may continue to work with an EducationUSA advisor, and you can indicate that in your application. There is a section called community-based organizations, and you can actually select EducationUSA as an organization helping you with the application process. And you also may work with some other organizations, and you can list them as well. As far as the activity section, this is a way to help colleges understand what you do when you are not in the classroom. This is anything that you want to share. You can share up to 10 things. It is sports, clubs, hobbies, family responsibilities, your interests, working, volunteering, summer experiences. There's no right or wrong here. Musical instruments, right? It's just how can you help a college know you beyond your academic record? You will be asked to provide a little bit of information about those activities. It is not a perfect science when it comes to answering some of the questions in the activity section. So do your best to answer the questions, but it does not have to be perfect. I'll also say here, it's about quality over quantity. So even though you'll see you can add up to 10 activities, it doesn't mean that you have to have 10 activities listed. Anything you would add? Yeah, Carla?
I agree with everything so far, and I know we're moving a little bit quicker.
All right. We will also share these slides, so you will have the ability, and you'll get the recording so you can see these just pointers on why colleges ask you for activities and what they're looking for when you list these things. Just more information. Common App tab, again, one of the sections is the writing section. Here's where you get to pick an essay topic. You can choose from 7 different topics. There is a 650 word limit. If you use Google Drive, you can actually pull content in for the personal essay. You'll also see the Google Drive icon in other parts of the application for short answer or document uploads. So if you're using Google Drive as your organizational tool, it's an easy way to then pull things into your application. If you would like to see what the actual prompts are, you can go out to the Common App website and you can review those 7 prompts. I mean, Carla, I think people have a lot of questions about essays. So yeah, anything you would add here?
I just thinking about like the essay, don't worry so much about like, is this, you know, gonna be the selected like national competition, you know, essay writing, but really just paying attention to the detail. I do get a lot of essays where they're referring to like why they want to go to another school, which is great for them, you know, but I'm confused as to why they applied to my school with like talking about another school, and making sure that you proofread it, maybe have somebody else read it out loud is what I tell people. It's like you have this time that you've been writing about this essay. So making sure that you're submitting something that is meaningful and with purpose for why you want to attend that school. And so, but yeah, I enjoy reading them.
Yeah, I mean, just to you know, follow up on that and that first point, remember that the colleges are part of the Common App. So they expect that you're writing an essay that's about you or something that you are interested in, and it's not about a specific college. You will find in the application process that some colleges will ask for a separate second essay that is more of a, why are you interested in attending our school, or why are you interested in this academic program? So that is separate from this one that is part of the general part.
Yes.
In the Common App essay. Jumping over to the My Colleges tab, this is where you actually submit your application to different colleges. So it's accordion style. You'll answer college specific questions. You will do what's called a FERPA release, which is Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, a long acronym, which basically says you're giving permission for your school and school officials to send your academic records to colleges that you are applying to. You'll also invite a counselor or school official who can send your academic records to the colleges, inviting if schools require or ask for teacher letters of recommendations. You will do that here. Again, you'll submit your application here. And then again, some schools will have a separate writing supplement, and you'll see that as a separate submission on the My Colleges tab. There are 4 different recommender types. So again, a counselor, maybe assistant principal or a school director, someone who has access to your academic records, you will invite to send your high school transcript. Also do that school profile to talk about your school. Then there's a teacher or teachers who you can invite. There's an other recommender type, which is totally optional, but you may have someone outside of the school that you would like to invite as a recommender. Completely optional. And then there's a 4th type called an advisor, who is someone that you may just be working with to help you with the process. They're not doing any forms, but you can give them access to actually see your in-progress application. As far as letters of recommendation, not all schools are going to require them. Some will require 1, sometimes 2, never more than 2. But they're just looking again for a review of who you are in the classroom, who you are as a contributing member of the class and community, and how that information might help an admissions committee review you as maybe fitting into a school community. Carla, anything here?
Yes, any school is going to be different with the type of requirements, so it is important to look at that. For us, we want at least 1 academic. Sometimes students are really focused with like just that minimum requirement, but you can actually send more than 1 letter of recommendation. I do joke and I always say 3 is nice and 10 is excessive, but it just depends. So if you can find 1 academic, that's great, but if there's things outside, you can definitely send that, and that does help me advocate for your admission into my institution. So
Okay. And then just be aware, and this is where your teachers and your school official may need your assistance. When you put their email address into Common App, they are going to get an email to log into their own recommender system, where they can actually do all of the forms through an online portal. So they don't have to put things in the mail to the colleges. So they can actually upload into the recommender system and then send those through Common App to be delivered to the colleges. Super fast on the application, but again, we'll answer questions. I'm just going to quickly show you where you can access resources. So Common App website, we have something called Common App Ready, which are handouts and worksheets that you can use. There is one, Common App for international applicants. There is a resource on the different essay prompts if you're looking for guidance there. There's just resources on, there's a dictionary to define some of the terms within this process. We are available, as I mentioned, 24/7 whenever you have questions. So going out to appsupport.commanapp.org, or you can get to this website right from within the application. We are here to support you through this whole process. We also have a social media presence through our Better Make Room channel, which it started with former First Lady Michelle Obama, and now lives at Common App. So we are putting out lots of resources and information and messages and encouragement and excitement about this process through our Better Make Room channel. So I encourage you to follow us so that you can also stay up to date with updates. I'll share with you our different handles. We do have TikTok. If you have TikTok and want to see some of our updated pieces there, they're pretty fun. And again, we're going to give you our information to connect with us. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so that we can make sure to get to any of the questions that may have come in the chat. Or if there are any additional questions, please feel free to put those into the Q&A now. I'll take the first one. There was a question, does test optional continue? Is there still test optional? And 100% yes. There was already a trend with schools moving test optional prior to COVID-19. And then when COVID-19 hit, majority of schools had to go test optional by default because students could not take a test. And we have seen many institutions continue to have test optional policies. Of the 1,000 members of Common App, over 90% of them are test optional. So that is a large number of schools that do not require you to have a test score.
And again, for those of you that have tested like you and you want to use those, you would be able to, because there's an option to be test considered. So there's both options. For my school, we're deciding to continue on with test optional. So I like that students get to choose how they want to be viewed, their highlights. For the second one, it says, I have dual citizenship, Japanese and US. Am I eligible for sports scholarship? Typically at my institution, you wouldn't be, citizenship is not part of the requirement for sports scholarships. It's more about your athletic ability and then whether or not that position is required. They're looking for that. And it's really more connecting with the coach and looking at what their criteria is and the level of play. Of course, typically once you do get recruited for athletics, you also need to meet the admissions requirements. So we don't, just because you have one doesn't mean that you'll have the other. You have to be super awesome, is what I tell my student athletes, is that they got to be academically competitive and then also academically in their athletically in their sport. They got to be the best too. So it's fun for them.
Also, I know that EducationUSA provides information about the NCAA and probably does other sessions for interested athletes who may, to help understand the different divisions of sports and when scholarship money is awarded at different institutions and navigating all of that. So there's a question about the Common App and how it's different from the Coalition app. They are just different platforms and they have different schools on them. Many colleges will accept both. Common App has, just like Florida Southern, there are more colleges on Common App. So colleges don't care which one you use if they accept more than one. It's really, you look at your list of schools that you're interested in, and then which platform works best for you. Ultimately, we want to simplify the process for you. So if you find a platform that you're comfortable with and the schools that you're applying to are on it, how can you simplify? And again, whether you choose Common App or Coalition or you apply directly through a school, it's just schools want you to make sure you get the information that you need to get to them.
There was one here that says at Florida Southern College, it said that accepted students will automatically have a merit scholarship. Does this apply to international students? Yes, so what I've been referring to is for international students. So my admissions process doesn't have a decision for like scholarship or being accepted based off of citizenship. So that's not something that I'm looking at necessarily. Later on, once a student gets accepted, knowing that citizenship information will be important to know about additional scholarships that may have a citizenship requirement. For example, my prestige scholarships, for those that meet that criteria, these are fully funded scholarship opportunities. They don't have a citizenship requirement, but I do have a George Jenkins scholarship, which is one for the local community area. And so there is actually even a address requirement where you have to live in Lakeland, have graduated from a Lakeland City High School, and also be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. So that one, a Japanese citizen wouldn't be eligible for, but the prestige scholarships and the merit scholarships, and there's a couple other like departmental scholarships, you would be able to receive if you met that criteria, but there wouldn't be a citizenship criteria. Hope that makes sense.
I will answer the question about, there's a question, there's no teacher at my school who has used the Common App. What advice do you have for these teachers? I think that's definitely very common, especially if you're the first one from your school to apply through Common App. So we do have a recommender guide on the website. It is, if you give to your teachers commonapp.org/advisors, they can get to the recommender guide, which will show them information. They can also work with EducationUSA. When they get their, when you invite them and they get this email, they get links to information, but there's also resources within the recommender system. So there are two. Really, there's one main thing that they're doing, which is uploading a letter of recommendation in the system. But again, they get access to a guide. We are available to support teachers as well, so they can always reach out to Common App. And then, yeah, is there anything that you can add or would want to add to that, Carla?
Institutions may have a recommendation form as well. So I know that Florida Southern College has a recommendation guide, probably very similar to Common Apps. And so we have that. And when you put the recommender's email in our system, we send them the recommendation form automatically and let them know that they can use that form or they can submit their own. So there's some flexibility.
Yeah, and in the recommender, actually in Common App Ready, I was trying to think of where it lives. We have some resource documents to help teachers write letters of recommendation. So like, what are some things that they should be highlighting? So you can get to that by going to commonapp.org/ready And when you go to the section of recommendations, that resource is there that you could share with your, with a teacher or counselor.
That's a good question. I like that one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Do you want one? Take one.
I have one. Do we submit the grades for 4 years, since American schools have 4 years? And that depends. With Florida Southern, I do use the equivalent of high school from your institution. So if your high school or secondary school is 3 years, that's fine for me. But there are some institutions that may still require three completed years or 4 completed years of academics. So it will be important to look at each institution, and don't just assume that because Florida Southern, we're not asking for it, that another school may be the same. But I know for us, there's flexibility with that. However, just because somebody else had asked about athletics, for example, NCAA will still ask for 4 under the athletics side. And I know that because I'm one of the athletic liaisons, so I happen to know more about athletics. Anyway, those are important things to know when looking at US colleges, and also like things that you may want to participate in.
Do you want to take that next one about SAT scores and how far in advance?
How far in advance can the SAT score be sent to universities? 1 to 2 years. So that also will depend on school policy and how long, I guess, how old a score can be, or how new it can be, if anybody had that. But for us, it's typically within the last, I believe, and I know this is being recorded, it should be at least 3 years. I'll have to go double check it. So that's pretty fun, as far as maybe you took the SAT exams earlier on and you scored something really awesome and you're like, that's it, I don't want to do it again. But also taking consideration some of my students who it's maybe been some time, maybe 5 or 10 years, and I don't know if that assessment is anywhere near where you are today. And so that's something that I'm really looking at, is are you, with the information that I know of you now, are you going to be successful academically at my institution? So more recent information is going to be more useful to me versus an SAT score from more several years ago. So each institution is going to be totally different. There may be schools that don't have a policy on that, and other schools that maybe have a more strict policy where it can't be older than a year or 2. I believe that for mine, it'll be 3 years, and no older than that. But if you see something on there that says 2 years, then I'm sorry, I just haven't had anybody. I don't think I've had anybody recently sent anything older than 2 right now. So yeah.
Follow-up question was, if I don't submit my SAT scores, do I have to take an admissions test? So I'll say, in general, no, but it depends, in that for some schools, when you are answering their college-specific questions, they're going to say, are you applying test optional? And you can, sometimes it's just yes, and that's the end of it. And sometimes they'll say, okay, well, if you're applying test optional, then we want you to answer this additional question, or we want to see this additional writing sample, or they may ask you to submit something alternative. I don't think it's an admissions test. I don't think that is going to be the case, but you may have to provide something else. But in general, test optional is meant to truly be if you don't want to send your test scores and you want them to just look at the other parts of your application without doing anything else, that is what test optional is designed for.
Correct. There was, at my previous institution, the test scores were sometimes used as part of assessment as well. So the students wouldn't have to take introductory level courses if they scored a certain score on the SAT math section, for example. But then those students who didn't use exam scores could take the assessment before starting classes, so that they could be placed in a higher level math class, for example. I'll just use that. And it is important, some people would say oh, this is fun. I can just cheat on this, and like, sure, but do you really want to be placed in a harder level math class if you don't need it? So more often than not, students were pretty honest about taking that assessment so that they would be placed in the correct math course. And oftentimes, like, they wouldn't have to take the assessment if they took the SAT, but they were even still given the option to take it if they felt that they could go into a higher level course. And this is like somebody just trying to decide if they're going to go into intro college algebra class or like a pre-calculus class or calculus, for example. So if you feel like you don't need to take college algebra or pre-calculus, then you're able to take that assessment and go into that higher level math class. I was a humanities major and I did not want to take any more math classes that I needed to, so I stayed where I was placed.
As far as the Common App, we have 2 questions left. The essay topics, we do a review of the essays every 2 to 3 years. We have added or changed, essay prompts, minor edits every 2 to 3 years. So, and usually it's like one new question or one question goes out, we do a survey. So there are no changes for this year. And then just the last one was, how do you use family information in the application? And I'll let you answer that, Carla.
Yes. So each school can be totally different as to what they may be looking for and how they may use that information. For me, I know whether this is going to be the first time that they're sending somebody over to the US if they've been to college, because then my conversation with that student later on can be different for somebody who has a sibling that's already going to school at Florida Southern, or like maybe the family member like attended Florida Southern versus somebody who has studied abroad before, or somebody who has not gone to college at all. Then I want to make sure that I give them the appropriate amount of information as needed. And so those conversations can be different. And I want to make sure, so I put that in there to follow up with the student, and then have, to me, it's about having meaningful, you heard me say that, valuable, purposeful conversations with the families and the student. And so if they don't have anybody that's been to college in the States before, I want to make sure that I can be that extra support for them versus somebody who may already have a couple other connections and there. And then these 2 students are still getting that support and attention from me, but maybe one student needs different types, where maybe they're looking more at the types of services that are already provided at the school, and the other one's still nervous about getting on the airplane, like, entirely. So making sure that I'm addressing those concerns and connecting them with the campus, and those conversations can be different. So that's something that I use for the family background, is having an understanding of like where that student is coming from, and what that background may look like. But again, each school may be different. At one of my first institutions, I don't think that they were really looking at that at all. After a couple of years there, I noticed that it was very important for me to look into like where that student was coming from and better understand them, and understand the family dynamic, not make assumptions that everybody had the same type of support. That's why I even like, knowing that they've worked or are aware of EducationUSA, because then I know that they're getting some of the best support out there. But it is something that I note, and I'm like, hey, when you were with EduSA, what have you spoken to, about what did you learn, and trying to make sure that I'm there to support them. I mean, that's really that end on the family part.
Meredith and Carla, thank you so much for your great presentation, and also answering a lot of questions and staying extra time for us. Every time I hear about the Common Application presentation, I'm learning on new things and new resources. And it was a very great, valuable time for me. And Carla, thank you for introducing the campus by Frank Lloyd Wright. I'd like to visit it sometime. Yes. Thank you so much for everyone for staying for the webinar. I'd like to remind again about EducationUSA webinar tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Also on September 23rd, we have a fall college fair. Please check our website and we hope to see you there again. And Meredith and Carla and those who attended the webinar today, thank you very much. Please stay safe and have a great day. This is the end of the program. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.